All right, so guys, I will start now with the presentation. So just let me know if you see the slide, the first slide, just to check if it's all working fine. Just let me know. All right, good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for confirming. Okay, so marketing strategies in architectural photography. As I said before, it's a very broad topic, and everybody kind of figures out their own way of doing it. But I'm going to share today some of the practical tips that have worked for me in my career, that I have tried and know to be working. So let's start. First, for those of you in the audience who don't know me, my name is Alex, and I'm an architectural photographer based in Portugal, in the city of Porto. I have been doing architectural photography for about 10 years now. And if you ask why I chose architectural photography, it's very simple for me. Architectural photography for me is something that I'm very passionate about. For me, it gave me a lot of things. So, for example, I managed to combine two of my biggest passions, which is architecture and photography. And besides that, it actually allowed me to build my own business, which is something that I always wanted to do, to have freedom in my work, flexibility in my schedule, and also what is very important for me is regular travel opportunities. So architectural photography is really all about travel. We are always going somewhere on assignments. We are always out of the office, shooting somewhere. And for me, this is really the best part, because every assignment takes me to a new place, somewhere where I've never been. And it really, keeps me inspired, visiting new places, meeting talented people, talented designers, and documenting the work that they do. So yes, I'm very passionate about the work that I'm doing, and that's why I am sharing it with you guys, so that you can also improve your workflow. So this is just a little bit about me, about my timeline in this profession. As I said, I started about 10 years ago in 2016, but I didn't start in real estate photography. I started photographing real estate. I was actually working in a real estate agency at the time. And for some reason, our little boutique agency, they were not in the habit of hiring a professional photographer to document and photograph their properties. So I decided to take initiative in my own hands and start photographing the properties that were listed in our agency. So that's how it started for me. And I realized that real estate photography is a thing. And I started exploring more of it. And that was my introduction to photographing spaces. But later, maybe a year or two down the line, I actually started digging a bit deeper and realized that there is architectural photography, which is something that didn't necessarily exist for me back then. I didn't know it was a thing. But when I first saw the images of architectural photographers, established architectural photographers, I immediately was captivated by how they travel the world and photograph amazing architectural projects. And I decided that I had to make a shift to architectural photography, and I really never looked back. In 2019, I received my first overseas commission, so international assignment, which is actually an interesting story. I will tell more about it in the webinar. It was a project in France. And a couple of years down the line, in around 2021, I started to share my knowledge with other photographers, mainly on social media, with those who are starting out, who want to improve their knowledge of architectural photography. I started sharing some of my knowledge that I have accumulated throughout the years. And this year, as you can see, 2026, it's a very special one for me, because I finally have put all of this knowledge and experience that I have collected over a decade in photographing architecture, and I put it in the course, which is designed to help people who are starting out, people who want to improve their career, and I'm gonna talk more about it in the end. So these are some of the recent travels where I have been with my work. So as I said, travel for me is absolutely essential part of being an architectural photographer, and something that I enjoy a lot. And as you can see, as I said, I'm based in Portugal, and my work has already taken me all the way to the jungles of Mexico, and all the way to the north to Finland, where it was like -15, which is insane. And recently, one of the recent places I've been to is Kuwait. It was actually in December. Actually, I was very lucky to get out of there, from that area just recently. So it was a lucky coincidence. And below you can see some of the architectural publications where my work has been published. So up to this point, I think it's most of the major architectural publications, my work has already been there. All right, so what do we have on our agenda today? First, I will talk about my tips for creating a portfolio and for curating a portfolio in architectural photography. And the reason for this is because we're talking about marketing, and there is no marketing without portfolio. When we talk about marketing in photography, we are actually putting our portfolio out there, our work, in a bid to win clients, right? So portfolio is essential, and I'm going to talk about some of my tips for this part. And then I'm going to talk about two main concepts in marketing, which is inbound marketing and outbound marketing. When we talk about inbound marketing, it's us putting our work out there for our potential clients to see and for us to be noticed. And when we talk about outbound marketing, it's us reaching out to the clients directly. So in the inbound part, I'm going to talk about social media specifically, and for outbound part, I'm going to touch on my tips for email outreach to your potential clients. And the last thing is I will give some tips on how to stay organized with all of this information that you will be accumulating over the years. And then we're going to move on to the questions. And as I said before, I have a person here in the audience helping me to manage your questions. So if you have questions along the webinar, feel free to just drop them in the comments, in the chat. And like this, they will be collected, and I will receive them in the end, and I'll go one by one. Claudio, thanks for being here. I can see your your comment. All right, so first thing first. When we talk about portfolio of architectural photography, I believe the most essential tip that I can give you is that we have to be specialized. So what do I mean by this? When a potential client opens your portfolio, or if you send it to someone, and if you want to work with architects, designers, interior designers, your work has to be very focused on this field specifically. And if you currently have a portfolio which is a little bit here and there, and you have some portraits and some landscapes and some weddings and some architecture somewhere in between, what I recommend you guys is to actually create a separate portfolio just for architectural photography. So why is this very important? First of all, we have to understand that our client, let's say the architect, they have invested a lot of effort and a lot of years into this project. Architectural projects, they take a lot of time to get built. So when it's finally finished and it's time to document this project, they cannot afford to risk and going with someone who is not specialized and who is not certain to deliver a high quality result. All right. So the job has to be done right from the first time. And that's why our clients are going with specialized architectural photographers. And another point is that architects, they want to see their work published in magazines, in architectural publications. And they know for a fact that when they work with a specialized architectural photographer, this person knows how to deliver the work that is well received by the architectural publications. So they have the right skill set to document the project in a correct way, how it was envisioned by the designer, and the architectural publications, they want specifically this type of content. They are looking for these images. So architects, they know this, and that's why they're looking for somebody who is specialized and will definitely get the job done from the first time. So moving forward, in portfolio, it's very important to not only focus on the images, but it's very important to focus on the right projects. Why is this important? We as photographers, especially if you are just starting out and getting into this field, we think that it's about images and it's about having beautiful images on our portfolio, which is not exactly correct. When we are targeting architects and designers with our work, it's super important to display high quality projects on the portfolio, not just high quality images, but it has to be about projects as well. Because imagine if you have, let's say, if you have photographed a couple of small projects, maybe some small apartment renovations that were like not exactly the highest quality, and you maybe have some restaurants here and there, and you create a portfolio just out of this, it's going to be very limited, because when architects are looking at our work as architectural photographers, they want to see what kind of projects we photographed, and they want to see high quality projects. Because when they look at our images, they don't only look at how beautiful our images are, they are actually seeking inspiration for their own work. So that's why right projects is a very important factor. And another tip, which is just a personal tip from me, so just take it for what it is, but I would avoid putting famous buildings and easily accessible buildings on your portfolio. The reason for this is when somebody is looking at the portfolio of architectural photography and sees there some landmarks and very famous buildings that are accessible by any tourist, any person, day and night, and everybody can go there and take photographs, it actually screams that you have gone there just for the purpose of a portfolio. All right. So what I would do instead is I would focus on the projects of local emerging practices. Even though it might seem like a better idea in going photographing something bigger, something of a bigger scale, something that is very well known, but in reality, what really hits the right audience is when you photograph something that is in your local market, done by practices that are upcoming. All right, so this is just from my personal experience. So moving forward, some other important considerations about portfolio. We have to consider adding more high quality projects over image quantity. Okay, so what I suggest is when you build a portfolio, you fill it with the projects that are highly curated, that are really high quality work, and don't overflow your portfolio with a lot of images. I can see this happening very often. When I see a portfolio of some photographers who have like, let's say you open a page of any given project and you just have like hundreds of images of the same project. And this, first of all, you cannot have all images that are really amazing and portfolio worthy. That's point number one. And secondly, when your potential client sees a huge abundance of images, it can actually tell a potential client that you don't know how to distill the project, the architectural project, down to a couple of images. And for the architectural photographer is a very essential skill to have. Another point is try to diversify your portfolio with projects of different scale and different sizes, different typology. So don't limit yourself to just having a couple of houses or apartments, but think broader and ask yourself, what other types of projects can I go out and photograph? So for example, it can be something related to service buildings, or it can be industrial buildings, or you can go even further and photograph something related to urban design, like public spaces. So when you have a portfolio that is comprised of diverse projects, that is telling your potential client that you are a well-rounded photographer and you can actually tackle the projects of different complexities. And another point is about architectural publications. So if you guys already have some of your work published in architectural publications, whether in print or online, I would highly recommend adding just a simple list of where your work has been published to your portfolio. Because as I said before, for architects, publications are very important. Then they want to work with photographers who have been published. So this is just another tip. Okay, so just to summarize about the portfolio, first, I highly recommend to specialize, okay, and not have your just different types of photographies laying around. Really create a separate portfolio for architectural photography. The second point is focus on local emerging practices in your area, because these are the ones that really make an impact when you are trying to pitch your portfolio to potential clients in your immediate surroundings. Then diversify, create a diversity of projects in your portfolio and focus on the quality of these projects. And as a last point, add publications, because for our potential clients, it's very important to see where we have been published. Okay, so now I'm gonna move on to the inbound marketing, and in this section, I'm going to talk mostly about Instagram, for obvious reasons. I will start by listing some of the common mistakes that I see people commit on Instagram. And by the way, I am not claiming to be an expert on Instagram in any way, all right? And I don't think that anybody can really be one, because the algorithms are always changing. We are always at the mercy of the founders changing things up, and then we don't know why our posts are not performing well. But before you say that Instagram is dead and you know, nobody's paying attention anymore, even like that, guys, I can tell you with certainty that everybody is on Instagram. All right, so for us, it's absolutely essential platform to be on, especially because we are photographers and we do very visual work. We still have to be on Instagram because nowadays it's the first place where your potential clients will be checking your work. It will not be even your portfolio website, it will be Instagram. So if you're thinking it's a nice to have, I would argue that it's essential to have. Another common mistake that I see with photographers is treating it as portfolio. So I have talked about the portfolio part before, and portfolio is about having your absolutely best work It's not about the quantity, it's about quality. And some people treat social media in this way, which blocks them completely from advancing on these platforms. Because when we talk about Instagram, it's not about having your absolutely best work, because like this you will be posting like once a month or even less. It's about posting more frequently. So you can always just think about it. You can always post something that you have done recently, and if you see that it doesn't really fit your Instagram or whatever, you can always remove it later. You can always archive the post. So it's better to post something than not to post, I believe. Especially, by the way, if this is a point for you, if you are in the starting stages of your career, this is very important. Another thing is I call it the aesthetics dilemma, right? So we sometimes overthink. I see this a lot in photographers. We overthink about how our feed looks like. It has to be aesthetic. It has to be like, posts have to fit into the kind of into our feed of Instagram. I totally get it, okay? And we always think about, do we post this? Do we not post it? What I suggest is always prioritize posting, and you can always remove it later if it doesn't fit your visual aesthetic. But like this, you can always keep it going and feed the algorithm of Instagram. And another thing is not posting for long periods. So as I said before, this can be a big block for many people. If you are overthinking what you're posting and you are stopping for years on end without doing anything, it will really be hard to advance on social media. So I'm gonna touch now on some of the tips from my personal approach on social media, the things that I have found to be working for me. So first of all, consistency is key, all right? So I personally consider it a part of my job. It's not a nice to have, it's essential to have. So I'm trying to keep it consistent and always, at least once a week or twice a week, post something from my recent work. And in case you might be asking, what if I'm lacking content? What if I am, I haven't photographed anything for a couple of months? I think it's absolutely fine to repeat your publications, repeat the posts, because as you guys know, the algorithm nowadays works in such a way that it's like less than 10%, I think, of your audience actually sees your posts. So if we think about it, you post something and like almost nobody has seen it except for like your really kind of long-term followers. You can give it some time, let some time pass, and you can just rearrange the content and post it again. It worked for me many times, and sometimes it performs even better than the first one. Another point is I'm trying to make it more personal, and it's still a work in progress for me, I admit. I'm still not exactly there, but I'm trying to show more of my process, more of my workflow, more of behind the scenes. And as you can see on this screenshot, these types of stories that I'm posting with just, behind the camera, they are the best performing pieces of content on my Instagram. For some reason, I don't know why, but people love seeing where I'm putting my tripod, I swear. So this is just a tip for you guys. People love seeing who is behind the lens, what kind of work you do. It's not only about finished and polished content, but adding some behind the scenes is really, really helpful. And the last thing is sometimes I do occasional paid advertising on Instagram. You know, guys, that you can advertise your post on Instagram, or you can create a separate advertising post. So it's not something that I do often, but especially in the first couple of years, I found it helped me really a lot to just kind of like push a little bit through the algorithm. And what I was doing is I was taking the post that was recent, and I was just advertising it on my local market. And I can tell you guys, it's really not expensive for what it is. And I found to be working quite well in terms of increasing your reach and getting more eyeballs on your work. So it has been working for me many times. So speaking about advertising specifically, I'm gonna give some of my tips specifically for the advertising in this year in 2026, because there have been some significant updates on the platform in general and specifically in the advertising. And many of you guys probably have seen the ad of this webinar on Instagram. So I have gone through the process recently, and this is what I have found. First of all, if I would be doing advertising now, what I would do is I would choose one of my recent best performing posts. It should be vertical, not horizontal, okay? Just because horizontal doesn't take almost any space on the screen, and vertical occupies most of the screen. And you can see on the example I have on the right, this is one of my best performing posts from recent months. So what I would do is I would take this post because I have seen that it already works. It kind of like it passed this test of social approval. I can see that, yes, people like these images, they like this project. So I would take this post and I would make an ad with it. And very critical step for you guys, remember this, write it down. Use Meta Ads Manager on your desktop, so on your computer, and avoid 30% of the markup that the Instagram app is putting when you are advertising through the app. All right, so I didn't know this before. Guys, just tell me, like, I'm wondering in the comments, did you know about this, or this is completely new to you as well? Just let me know. But basically, when you're putting the ads through your phone, you're paying 30% more than if you're just doing it basically through your browser, if you just open Instagram.com on your computer. So that's essential tip. The next one is target audience in your market. Why is this important? I think it's simply, it has worked for me in the past many times, because when we advertise more broadly, when we start advertising internationally on different countries, it doesn't have that much of an impact. You can have some people curious about the work you're doing, and you can get some new followers, but the quality of these leads will not be as high as when you are advertising in your local market, especially if this is a project that you photographed somewhere in your surroundings. Advertising it to architects that are in your market makes much more sense than advertising more broadly, because it's relevant for them and they will engage much more. Yes, I can see you guys that for some people it's completely new about the 30% surcharge. Yes, somebody already found out about it. Yeah, so this is not new, but I recently found out. And another point is, if you are going down this path, if you're gonna create some advertising, what I would recommend is, first of all, when you go to your Meta Ads Manager through your Facebook, use Advantage Plus Audience. It's a new feature that they have rolled out recently. Basically, in the past, we had to create and fine-tune the audience to which we're going to be advertising manually. We had to add interests and add some criteria for the platform to find our audience. But nowadays with AI, they have created this Advantage Plus, and basically what it does is you simply insert one a small prompt or like a keyword, like let's say people interested in architectural photography, and you roll it out, and then the algorithm, once it rolls out the ad, throughout the period of advertising, it learns by itself. So it shows it to different target audiences, and it sees with which audiences it performs better, and then it doubles down on that segment of the audience. So I found out about it recently, and it really works quite well. I can tell you guys from my experience. Okay, so next point about Instagram is I want to speak about breaking through the noise. Nowadays we have like so much visual content, and there is a lot of good photography, a lot of interesting projects, and we're constantly bombarded by all of this information. So how do we really break through this and get noticed on Instagram? So what I found to be working for me is focusing more on the projects that are newsworthy. So let me explain what I mean by that. Architecture is a very news-oriented industry. So our potential clients, they like to see what projects have emerged recently, what kind of new architects are on the market, what kind of work they're doing. So when we focus on the projects that are newsworthy, so something that is more significant, that has happened recently, it works much better. You get more people interacting, you get more engagement, and your content actually gets seen on social media. So let me just give you an example. I have just recently seen some images on Instagram of the Louvre Museum in Abu Dhabi. So I think many of you guys have seen the images of this building, like with a dome on top of the building, which is surrounded by water. Amazing project, right? But it has already been out there for many years. It's not new. And with some of the first photographers who have been there, who managed to be the first one there, these images were completely like exploding on social media because everybody was loving the project. It was very fresh, very new. Nowadays, when somebody goes there, photographs, puts these images on social media, even if they are amazing images, but they don't create any impact. Nobody has seen them because this project is old news. All right, so that's what I found. And what I recommend is find these projects that are recent and that have some significance in your market, and try to be one of the first photographers to step inside these projects. That's how you actually get advantage, basically. And if you are telling me, guys, that there is nothing newsworthy in your town, in the area where you live, I can tell you guys that when I started in architectural photography, I used to live in the south of Portugal, in Algarve. There was really not much happening in terms of like architecture. Now there is more, but there was almost nothing before. So I actually had to move cities and go to all the way to the north of the country, to Porto, to basically have something happening around me. Because if I wanted to pursue architectural photography, I realized that I had to be surrounded by good architecture and a lot of projects happening, a lot of buildings built. So that's the move I made. And if you have nothing happening in your area, I say, guys, it's time to pack your bags. And I don't say move, okay, but definitely find projects and travel there, because architectural photography is really all about travel, and that's the most beautiful thing about this profession. All right, and here just some of last tips about Instagram, some of the updates for this year that the actual founders of the app were telling online. So first of all, raw content will win dramatically over any kind of like overly produced, polished content, especially AI content. So the audience and the public is already getting tired of AI content, even though it has just started. So the algorithms of Instagram, they will be rewarding the raw, unpolished content. So that's even more kind of an incentive for us to put us out there, show our backstage, show our workflow behind the scenes, these sorts of things. Another thing is there is a limit now of 5 hashtags. All right. So more than that, it's either not permitted or simply doesn't make sense anymore. And another thing which I found to be quite useful, and you guys can take note, you can guys now control your algorithm on Instagram. So you know this very well, that when you are on the platform, you are bombarded by things that are completely irrelevant to you. Sometimes things that you don't want to see, etc. Now there is a button you can see on the screenshot on the right. You can click there and you can actually adjust and tell the app what kind of content you want to see, and like this, you have a much better experience. So this is another tip for you. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about LinkedIn, because this is a platform that has been working for me quite well over the years. And before you tell me that, LinkedIn is, it's a boring platform and it's only to look for jobs, this is absolutely not true. As you can see in statistics, LinkedIn is actually the second fastest growing platform in 2025 and 2026. So it is a very good platform for us to be on for several reasons. First of all, we are in a B2B environment. We are providing a service business to business. Okay, so for us, it's also a natural place to be on LinkedIn, because when you compare it to platforms like Instagram, when people are spending time there, they are spending time to entertain themselves, to watch some content, to unwind, whatever. But when people are on LinkedIn, they are on this platform with a completely different mindset. They are there with a business mindset. They are looking for potential new contacts. They are looking for somebody to connect with, to maybe do a collaboration, see what their industry peers are up to. And for architects, it's a great place for them to hang out. So when you present your work there and just publish your recent work, actually it works quite well. And I had already many assignments that came my way from LinkedIn. And another thing is, of course, you can connect directly with people there. So you can not just follow them, but you can connect. You can see what kind of position they hold in the company, and you can find the key decision makers in the firms that are your potential clients. So that is something you cannot do on Instagram. Are you in Portugal? Yes, I'm in Portugal. Yes, in Porto. Let's see what you guys are saying here. I had a recent success with it in the past couple of weeks that led to licensing images. Yes, well, exactly. Companies are seeing the images of their own project. When, for example, I photograph something, I put it out there, and I tag the companies. These companies see it, they share it, so even more people see it, and it's like what do you think of the House platform? I'm not there, so I cannot really give any advices there. Okay, I'm gonna move forward. Now I'm gonna talk about outbound marketing, and specifically about tips for email outreach. Email has been working really well in my case, and most of my first clients when I was starting out, they came from email, and I really believe that it's the most professional, the most direct and effective way to contact potential clients. So If you compare it, for example, to just sending a DM on social media, it's completely different because, as I said before, our service is very focused on business to business. We are working with ateliers, with architecture practices, and when you send your presentation to your potential client, email works much better because you can put in a more comprehensive message. You can actually ask to forward this message to the right person, which is something you cannot do on social media. And it's just a more professional way to contact potential clients. So let me see. Yeah. Here are some of my tips for email communication. First of all, I highly recommend avoiding mass emails. So don't just copy paste and blast the same message to everyone. This is an instant throw off, and the message ends up in rubbish. What I suggest to do instead is when you are making email outreach, do your research first. When you're contacting, let's say, an architecture office, if you want to work with them, find out who is the person who is receiving the emails, if it's possible, of course. It can be an administrative person, or it can be a PR, marketing department, and direct this message directly to this person. It has a much bigger impact, and make it about them. So what I mean by this is, do your research and don't just simply say, hey, I'm a photographer, here's my portfolio. But instead of this, look at what kind of works they have been doing, what they have been up to recently, and you can say, for example, hey, I have seen this project that you have completed recently. I really love your approach, love the work you're doing, and I would be available to photograph it in case you don't have a photographer already. So something like this works much better than just a generic outreach, which, you know, our clients, they are receiving a ton of it on daily basis, trust me. And another thing you can do is you can ask to forward this email to the right person. So if you don't manage to find the contact of the person in charge of this kind of decisions, you can simply put the simple message in your email and ask to forward this email to the right person. It can be like to the marketing department or PR department or something along those lines. Okay, so about email, if you are not receiving a reply, don't get discouraged, okay? I know this can be frustrating. Emails can be really frustrating because when people are receiving them on the other side, they don't feel obliged to reply in any way. But I can tell you guys from my experience, you remember when I said that I have received my first international assignment, like in 1 year into architectural photography? That was a very interesting story. So I sent an email back when I was actually photographing real estate, and I sent an email to one of the potential clients. It was a homeowner, so it was a private client, and I haven't received any reply, just like with many of the emails that we send out. And guys, exactly 1 year down the line, 1 year. So imagine we are now 5th of March. Imagine 5th of March next year, I receive a reply from this person saying, hey Alex, I remember that you sent this email. Look, I have this project that I need to photograph in France. And I always work with this photographer, but they cannot do it now. They fell in sick or whatever, and I'm urgently needing a photographer. Would you like to do this? And I said, I'm packing right now, right? I'm going. So these kind of things, they happened a lot in my career. I don't know how, but somehow people remember when they see a portfolio, when they like it, they remember it down the line. And if you don't receive a reply immediately, don't get discouraged, because I have been contacted sometimes 2 years down the line after sending my portfolio, sometimes 3 years. And the reason for this, guys, is in architecture industry, these projects, these architectural projects, they take time to get built. So the probability of you contacting someone and being right at the right time, at the right place, is quite low. But sometimes it also happens, which is fantastic. But these projects, they take time. So don't worry, they notice your portfolio and they can contact you when the project is ready. Now, if you have contacted by email and you have received a reply, congratulations, that's a good job. But what I would suggest is don't leave it at that and try to go and meet personally with the person with whom you are in touch, because this will leave a much more lasting impression and they will remember you for much longer, because personal connections are everything. Even nowadays, with all the advancements of technology, we still need personal connections. So if you can, go for a coffee, go meet at their office, present yourself as a person, and it will work much better this way. Okay, so now one tip for you guys in terms of staying organized. What I would suggest is, whether you are just starting out or you already are advanced in your career, create a database of contacts. So create a spreadsheet or something. I'm just using a simple Excel file, and put all of the information of the people you are contacting, their names, their emails, and if you got in touch with them, what you have talked about. Because once you are, a couple of years into your career, you will completely lose track of what you said to whom, in what year. As I said, it can take time to actually establish a connection with your potential clients. So it's really important. It helped me tremendously in my career to keep track of all of my communications. So all of these details, when I'm contacting someone and we talk about something, just create a simple log in your file and keep it on track. It will save you a lot of headache in the future. So just a little summary. We're talking now about marketing, and the things we have talked about is portfolio tips, and we have talked about social media strategies. We have talked about email outreach and staying organized. Marketing doesn't end there. All right, so there is a lot more things to talk about, which is, for example, newsletters. It's a great tool to communicate with our clients. Creative directories. Then we have presence on Google, which is super important as well. Then we have contacts with marketing agencies. We have architectural publications, and the list goes on and on. I cannot cover everything today, but I will definitely touch more on these topics in the future webinars. And as I mentioned before, guys, I have right now, as we speak, I'm launching my online course on the business of architectural photography. So it's a very comprehensive course for those who want to learn architectural photography and build a sustainable business in this industry, or somebody who is already working there and wants to improve their skills. It's a project that I've been working on for the past more than 2 years, actually. It's been really a lot of work, and I'm really excited to finally put it out there to you guys. And before we go into Q&A, I'm just gonna briefly touch on the contents of the course itself. So who is this course for? First of all, it's for people who are starting out and they want to get started in architectural photography. This provides a complete blueprint of how to get started, how to find clients, and all of the technical details. Then we have real estate photographers. It's definitely a very good resource for real estate guys, because if you're looking to transition to architectural photography, I have gone myself through this path and I know how it is. I know all the difficult steps that you have to take. So it's for you guys as well, and professionals who are already working in this field. and want to expand their knowledge and know more, this also, you will find also a lot of interesting content there. So this is what the interface actually looks like. In the first module of the course, I'm talking about how I got started, my personal story, and tips for finding your first projects when you're just starting out. And I'm diving into building a portfolio that is tailored to the right audience so that you can start working with architects and designers. In the second module, that's the biggest part of the course because this is about the business side of architectural photography. So I have marketing there, and it includes topics that we talked about today and much more. Then I have pricing, how to price architectural photography, how to build an estimate, what it means to hold a copyright in photography in general, usage rights and what kind of implications they have in our work. Then I'm going to image licensing and how we can maximize our income by licensing the images to third parties. Then I'm touching on the topic of dealing with low season that really not many people talk about, but it's been a constant in my work over the years. And also on the topic of personal projects and what importance they bear in our work. And I said that if I do a course just on business, it's going to be way too limited. So I decided to broaden up a little bit, and I included a bonus module, which is not about business anymore. And in the first lesson, I am talking specifically about all of my daily equipment. So tripods, cameras, lenses, everything I use on daily basis. In the second lesson, this lesson is more like a documentary actually, and in here I'm going to photograph a new contemporary winery located in spectacular Douro Valley in Portugal, one of my favorite places in the entire country. And I walk through this photo shoot step by step, explaining exactly my approach to photographing this project. And the last lesson is on the post-production workflow. So I guide you through all of my workflow from the raw image all the way to the final delivered files. Now I'm going to go into questions. So I know you guys have been putting a lot there. I hope Esther is managing all of this flow. So let's see. Okay, I'm gonna read the questions out loud and I will reply. So first, are you an architect? I'm not an architect by profession, by education, all right? I know that many architectural photographers who are working in this field, they are former architects indeed. And there is kind of like a broadly spread belief that you have to be an architect to work in architectural photography, which is completely not true. Nowadays, among some of the most famous architectural photographers, many of them don't have any prior connection to architecture, and that is also my case. So I have learned everything about architecture while working in this field, working with architects. All right, I'd like to know if social media platforms like Instagram and similar ones are a showcase for maintaining a presence, or if they are an active way to receive job offers that ultimately lead to success. Well, I think it's actually both. It's a place to maintain presence, which is very important for us, because when potential clients are looking at our social media, they want to see that we are active, and they don't want to see like the last post which was posted 3 years ago, which means probably the person is dead or not working or whatever. So yes, it's a place to maintain presence, but also as you go into down the line into your career and you have more presence, you have more people following you, you will actually receive jobs from social media as well, and that is my case. Nowadays I receive quite a lot of requests from social media. All right, so many people have been asking, who sends the photos to publications? Is it me or my client? So I'm not sending the projects to publications. It's handled by my client. And what I'm helping them with is I can give them sometimes some advice or some tips on, because I know I'm familiar with architectural publications. I can give them some tips on where this project would be a good fit in what kind of publications, because they're all different. And I can also help them prepare a media kit. Media kit being like the project description, the drawings, and then the files, and the photos, of course. And I can help them just put things together, but the outreach is done by the clients. Okay, Sophia is asking, how do you get to choose? How do you get to those nice big projects? Okay, that is a good question. I think you are referring to the projects that I mentioned that are newsworthy, that are relevant. So first of all, I naturally, because I'm in this industry, I am doing research on regular basis, and I'm seeing what kind of projects are coming up. And when you will get more years in architectural photography, you will already start to develop an eye for the projects that will be newsworthy, that even before they are built, you already know that they will make news. And when you notice this kind of projects early on, you can actually reach out to either the architects, or sometimes it can be the owner of the building. Sometimes it's for example, let's say it's like a commercial center, then you contact the company that is managing this property, and like this you can get there early, with being one of the first photographers in there. Also from Sophia, how many images per project? I believe that when we talk about portfolio, the sweet spot is about 10 to 15 images per project. If you are displaying your portfolio on per project basis, because there are different ways, you can just display it as a broader selection of images. You can have different projects scattered around the portfolio, or you can separate them by projects. If this is the case, I think 10-15 images is the sweet spot. Okay. Is it okay to mix residential and commercial properties in architectural portfolio? I think it's not only okay, I think it's really a good idea to not only show one type of projects. As I said before, diversity is really, really important if you want to show that you are a well-rounded photographer. So mixing, yes, all day long, different projects, different sizes, different scales. I think it's a really good idea. What is a good amount of projects to show in your portfolio? And could you disclose a bit how you handle your portfolio, in person or virtually? Okay, so about the good amount of projects, I think, honestly, I'm not sure if there is any like right answer for this question, because you can display only like a handful of projects, for example 5 projects, let's say, and if they are really amazing killer projects with fantastic images, that's all you need. You don't need more, I would argue. So definitely don't overflow your portfolio with like a ton of content. And you are asking how you handle your portfolio in person or virtually. So when I present my portfolio, it's on 99% of cases is virtually, yes, by email or sending it in a private message. In person, I never really presented the portfolio in person. When I'm meeting with clients face to face, I am actually trying to avoid talking about like the business and trying to sell myself or something like that. I'm there to present myself as a person and just to get to know them, what kind of people they are. So I don't really feel comfortable presenting a portfolio like physically, but that's just my approach. Question from Fred. For a portfolio, how many pages would you aim for? Something like 10 feels like enough that you could show a range of projects, but not bore the recipient. That's exactly right. I think, yeah, it feels absolutely right to me. Around 10 pages, it's more than enough. Yeah. Is it okay to do the photo shoot with the client, or is it better to do it alone after understanding the client's needs? So I think what you're asking here is it better to work by yourself or with a client standing next to you? I think that's the question. In my case, I do like a hybrid version of these things. I'm working by myself, but only after I have received a good brief from the client. So I'm trying to meet with them before the shoot, and they tell me what facets of the projects are important to them, what I definitely have to photograph, and afterwards I'm there by myself most of the time, and I'm trying to do the best work possible that fits their needs, but also bring my own interpretation into the project. So it's a mix of these things, but on the photo shoot itself, most of the time I'm by myself. Question from Philip. The portfolio must be printed or it can be online. As I said, in my case, it's online. I don't have a printed one. Okay, what exactly are architecture media platforms? What exactly are architecture media platforms looking for, in your opinion, in terms of the sequence of images? That's a good question. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, when I'm putting together a selection of images that I would hand over to my client that will be prepared for publication, I'm trying to distill the project down to only a handful of images, somewhere from, as I said, 10 to 15. It's a good spot for publications. They don't need more than that, for sure. And I'm trying to show different facets of the project. So it can be some exteriors, some interiors, some night shots also work really well, and just showing it from different facets. There is no specific like sequence, but that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, Sophia, do you need the client permission to submit photos and projects for publications? That is a very, very relevant question. Thanks for this one. Because if sometimes I'm taking the initiative in my own hands and I decide to send the project to some publication, I always inform the client. Yes, it's a very crucial step, and I highly recommend you guys do the same. Don't do it without the client knowing. And the reason for this is clients in architecture field, many times they are very sensitive and very picky about where their project is seen, online or in print. I have had situations when the client just tells me, look, I never want to be on that platform. I don't want to be there. I think my project doesn't fit. I think it's a low quality platform, whatever. I just don't want to be there. That's it. And if he would see this project published in this platform without him knowing, it would be an awkward situation. You can imagine. So always inform your client, guys. Okay, villas or Airbnb photography are considered a different kind of photography. Can we add them to our portfolio? Okay, that's another relevant question. These types of photography, I would call it more like real estate, which is everything has to do with properties and sales and Airbnb and architecture. These fields, they have a lot in common, for sure. But here is one important point. If you want to target architecture clients, I would highly recommend separating them. If you want to be working with architects and design-oriented clients, create a portfolio that is separate from real estate and Airbnbs and everything, and focus just on architecture and some interior design. Question from Fran. Is there an app that IDs architectural styles? I believe you mean identifies architectural styles via address or photo and suggests optimal photo compositions. If not, would this be valuable for photographers and real estate professionals? I don't know of any of these type of apps. Nowadays they can come up, especially with AI, but I don't know of these apps until now. Question from Dan. How do you get to photograph those quality projects if you don't have them in your portfolio yet? Do you cold email architects or offer them first project for free? Okay, so this relates to the question that was put before by Sophia. How do I get to photograph those quality projects? Especially in the beginning, when I didn't have a lot of projects coming my way, especially projects that are of high significance, what I was trying to do, I was photographing them by myself and just with my own initiative. And actually, I was rarely contacting the architects first. I was more contacting either the owner of the building or the company that is managing this space. I found it to be just more effective. And what I would do is I would identify the project that I would like to have in my portfolio. I would go there and I would make an arrangement with the owners that I would make some shots purely for my portfolio. And in most cases, they perfectly understand this, and I never had issues, actually. Normally, they are very receptive to this kind of requests. And this is actually a very interesting topic to speak about. There is a whole chapter dedicated to finding this kind of projects in my course. It's called Finding First Projects. So there is a lot more nuances that you have to think about when you go out and look for projects for portfolio. You have to make an agreement with the owners that will be beneficial to you and to them. Like this, it's a fair exchange. You have to present a proper usage rights agreement if you are handing them any images. So there is a lot of technicalities, and I touch on this topic in the course. Question from Patrick. Story versus post. When to do what? Good question. Story, I think it's, in my case, any time of the day works. In order to make my life easier, as soon as I have something to post on stories, something from behind the scenes or something from my workflow or my day-to-day, I just post it immediately on stories, because I don't want the hassle of thinking of when to post it and then waiting for this time and then sitting down, and eventually it never happens. So I prefer to, just spit it out immediately. In terms of post, that's a different story. What usually works well is posting either around lunchtime, that's just from my personal experience, or at the time when the working day ends. So like 5-6 p.m. Because once people leave work and get home, the post is already there, kind of rolling out, and they see it more than if you post during working hours. What do you mean by rearranging the content? So I believe this question is about reposting the stuff that you posted before. What I mean is simply to change the order, put some images in front, put some images in the back, and just reshuffle the content and put it out, make a different description, and like this you basically repackage the stuff that you posted before and post it again. For posting on Instagram, single images or carousels and reels. So what I found to be working the best is when you have several images. Definitely not one, unless it's an amazing image and it's amazing project and everything just works. Sometimes it does, but most of the time carousels of images work much better. And in terms of reels, I'm just starting to dip my toes into this area. I'm not much of a reel person, but lately you can see actually on my profile in the reels, I have been trying to share more valuable content for photographers, some tips. So you can actually go and check it out. I think it's going to be useful for many people. But I'm still working into the reels thing. Okay, question from Josh. With advertising, eyeballs are good, but leads and inquiries for your business are what you are after. Did that increase with your paid ads? Yes, absolutely. Advertising on Instagram, it's not only about getting as many eyeballs as possible. It's when you target the right audience, yes, they become your followers and they can interact with your content, but eventually down the line, as I said, not immediately, but down the line, they can become your potential clients, because if it's relevant audience, if they are located in your market and you see that you are working with local architects, photographing local projects, there is a high probability, if they like your work, that they will reach out to you. So next one, do you know how to set up an ad in Meta Ads to reach architects and not photographers? So as I said, there is a new tool in the Meta Ads that is called Advantage Plus Audience. It's an AI-driven tool, and with my recent experience with advertising, I found to be working quite well. So it's basically an algorithm that learns by doing. You simply give it a hint of what audience you need, and it starts rolling out the ad. It starts showing it to different people that it thinks is the right audience, and then it figures out which ones work better, which actually click on the ad or interact or follow, and then it doubles down on this audience. So I found it to be working quite well. Ads lead to more clients. That's another question. Yes, I think in the long term, yes. In the short term, you will just get some more eyeballs on your content and some followers, but down the road, yes, I believe it can lead to more work and more inquiries. Question from Patrick. How big are the marketing budgets you're speaking of here? I'm not sure what this question relates to. Patrick, if you're still there, can you clarify what you're talking about? Just drop it in the comments. Marketing budgets. Yeah, just if you can clarify a little bit. Oh, Meta Ads. Okay, thanks. So in my case, when I was doing my first steps with advertising, I was usually putting in just about $50 to advertising. And even with this small budget, it already did a really good job in terms of finding the right people and people who are relevant to your content. And of course, the more you put, I believe, the better it will work, and for a longer period. But you can start with really small budgets. There is no limit. So I think it's worth giving it a try. Kim Smith, I hope I'm pronouncing the names correctly, guys. Sorry if I'm not. Can you create an ad from something that was never posted to your feed? Yes, absolutely. And this ad that I posted for this webinar was created from scratch. I didn't have it on my feed and I still don't. So it was, you go to the Meta Ads Manager and you create an ad from scratch there. It's called a dark ad, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not seen on your feed. It only is basically working as an ad and nothing else. Jonathan, would love to know what is your process to find some newsworthy projects. So as you develop more and more in architectural photography, you will definitely start finding these projects. You will smell this project from a kilometer away when there is something that is newsworthy. Simply comes from experience, but you can do some research and find, for example, in your area, what projects are being built currently. Something that is, when I speak about significant and newsworthy projects, most of the time, I mean the projects that have a high impact on a community. So, for example, when we're talking about a house or a villa or an apartment, it's a very small impact project. It only impacts like one family, you know, and it's very hard for this project to be really newsworthy. But projects that are of bigger scale, that are built on a level of community, like it can be some urban design, or it can be a church, or it can be a new commercial building or an office building. So something that changes the way cities live. That's when actually these projects are becoming more newsworthy, and it's a really good way of, you know, getting out there and diversifying your portfolio. Okay, next up. From Fabio. Do you mean that the algorithms stop to show your content if it's old? If we're talking about old projects, old architectural projects that are not recent, it's not about the algorithm stopping it. It's more about when it rolls out the content, and if people start seeing it and they don't really interact, they just scroll past it, that's telling the algorithm that this project is not, this post is not interesting to the public, and then it just goes all the way down. So when you post something recent, something that has some significance in the architecture field, and people start interacting with it immediately and sharing it, that's when it really drives up, and that's how you get noticed. Another one from Sophia. Sophia, you are putting out a lot of really good questions. Thanks. How do you get to photograph newsworthy projects if you are still building a portfolio? How to get access? This is a really huge topic. I'm not gonna go really too much into details. There is, as I said, there is a whole chapter in the course dedicated to this, because there is a kind of like a process that I found to be working over and over. And what I can tell you is, just in a nutshell, when I decided that I want to photograph a project for my portfolio, I'm trying to get access usually with the owners or the managers of the building. And I get in touch. I simply explain that I want to create images for my portfolio, and I send them my works to show that I'm a professional photographer working in architectural photography. And usually it never was an issue for me, and I managed to photograph a lot of projects that I wanted to put on my portfolio through this way. Do hashtags still work? Not really. Not really. Honestly, they don't really work anymore. It's actually even the founders of Instagram, they are telling this themselves, and that's why they are only limiting the amount of hashtags to 5 nowadays. And basically, what really helps in terms of telling the algorithm what your post is about is the description. So if you put a good description about your post, so that the machine can actually analyze and understand what this post is about, it will work nowadays better than hashtags. So that's what they are saying currently. Question from Valentina. How do you propose a publication to magazines, and who pays for the photo license? Do the magazines pay, or does the architect? So in my case, as I said, normally this work is done by my clients. It's not done by me. Usually I can only kind of give them suggestions of where they can publish the project and how to put together a good media kit. But the publication is done by them. And who pays for the photo license? So when it comes to publications, in my photography contract, my standard license already includes the usage rights for these images to be published in architectural publications. I already included in my contract, because in my case I'm working with architects for the most part, and my clients, if it wasn't for their portfolio and for architectural publications, they would not be hiring me, basically. So I know for a fact that that's the license they need, and that's why I already included in my contract. So it's the architect who pays for it, and architectural publications, some of them they pay the license for the images, but most of them nowadays they don't pay for the license, and it's becoming less and less, unfortunately. But there are quite a few still out there that are still paying photographers for every image. All right, I'm gonna take a few more questions. I'm reaching my time limit already, but I'm just gonna take a few more. So concerning Instagram, the algorithm, etc., is it on your Instagram professional account or personal? It is on my professional Instagram account, yes. You might have only one, but how do you use it? Is it categorized in business or personal? So yes, it's a business account, and I believe there is for our field, it's really beneficial to have a business account on Instagram, because it has a lot more tools for statistics, for looking at how your posts are performing, for the ads as well. So I think business account is the way to go. Okay, question from Luke. Is it necessary to have a website when you send emails to potential clients, or is attached portfolio also good? I think both ways work fine. In the beginning, I didn't have a website when I first started contacting potential clients. I only had a PDF file. And that was enough to get some of my first clients. But in the long term, I think investing in a good website is a really good idea, and it should be tailored to your potential clients in terms of how it's designed, the ease of use, and mainly the focus on images. So less, unnecessary text and more images. That's what I would say for the website. Do you recommend LinkedIn Connects with notes messaging for outreach? So you mean when we're on LinkedIn and when we say send private messages? In my case, I have done it a couple of times when I'm just reaching out directly to the person on LinkedIn. Sometimes it worked because I could identify, for example, if the person is marketing responsible, let's say, of an architecture firm with whom I want to work. That's a great way. You can actually send a direct message. You can present yourself. send your website or your portfolio, and I found it to be working quite well. But on LinkedIn, in my case, I don't do it that often. Mostly I focus on posting content on a regular basis. For me, it's once a week, and it's been working quite well. Okay, what do you consider the most effective tip for sending emails? So, as I mentioned before, there are a couple of tips, including don't send mass emails, send personalized emails, and ask to forward it to the right person in case you don't find the correct contact right away. So yeah, these are the couple of essential tips for emails. So the next one, how do we know about a new project of an architectural agency unless it has been published? Which means it has been photographed. It's a good point, and usually where we find out about the upcoming projects is on social media of these offices, because they are not only posting final images, they are also posting the photos from construction sites. They are posting, sometimes stories, sometimes photos, and that's what I found that most architectural offices do, and that is very helpful to understand what they are working on and what is coming up soon. How do we research local emerging practices? I think, again, Instagram is a good tool for that, to see what practices are coming up, what practices are emerging, because eventually, if you have an Instagram dedicated to architectural photography, sooner or later you will start seeing more and more of this content, so you don't even have to search for it. But otherwise, I would just search in regular places like Google, find what kind of architectural offices are in your immediate surroundings, in your city, for example, and find out what they are working on, what kind of projects they are building right now. So, question from Sergey. Tracking clients in Excel for over 10 years of practice is not efficient and quite difficult. Simple CRM would be much better. I believe you're right. Yes, I'm just probably an old-fashioned person, and my good old Excel file still does the job perfectly for me. But if there is more efficient way, I totally agree that it should be used. Okay, guys, I'm gonna take one more question. I'm running out of time here. So how can we reach architectural publications? In my case, it's not, as I said, it's not me who is actually publishing the projects. But if you are going to take the matter in your hands and you want to publish the projects yourself, first you have to make a media kit, which is basically, it can be a folder online, like on Google Drive or Dropbox, where you collect the essential information about the project, like description, architectural drawings, and 10 to 15 images, the best images of the project. And like this, you pick this link and you send it to the publications that you think will be a good fit for this project. Like this, you have a much better chance for getting published, because you already have everything prepared for them. They don't have to do any extra work of asking you for things, asking to send this and that. You already have everything prepared. So guys, thank you so much for your questions. I know there is a lot more, but what I can recommend, guys, on my Instagram, you can find the tag under this video. You can go in my Instagram, and I have a private group specifically for architectural photographers, where I'm continuing to answer questions, and I am sharing a lot of useful tips on my day-to-day practice. So if you want to learn more, you can go there, and I think there is a lot of useful content there for you guys. So guys, thank you so much. Once again, there was a lot of interesting questions. I hope you liked it. Stay tuned for the next webinars. I will be doing more of them. And good luck with your work. Good luck with architectural photography, and I see you next time.